Devim sarthim vyasam titu jayamudirayat. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 6, Text 10. So this is prose I can read through once, and then we can read the translation and purport. Yena havava kalamajupashada devamaya mohita svavidi niyogakshocha charita vihina deva hinayat apavranti nija nichaya Grinana ashna nachamana socha keshulanu chadini kalinda dharma bahuleno pahatadiya brahma brahmana jagnak purusha loka vidushaka payana bivishyati yena, by which pseudo-religious system. Havava, certainly. Kalo, in the age of Kali. Manuja apashadaha, the most condemned men. Devamaya mohita, bewildered by the external energy or illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Swavidi niyoga shocha charita vihana, without character, cleanliness, and the rules and regulations. Given according to one's own duty in life. Deva halanani, negligent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Apavratani, impious vows. Nija nija ichaya, by their own desires. Granana, accepting. Ashnana anachama socha, concocted religious principles such as no bathing, no washing of mouth. Being unclean and plucking out the hair. Kalina, by the age of Kali. Adharma bahulena, with an abundance of irreligion. Upahata diya, whose pure consciousness is destroyed. Brahma brahmana yagna purusha, Loka vidushaka, blasphemous towards the Vedas, the strict Brahmanas. Ritualistic ceremonies such as sacrifice and toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And his devotees. Prayena, almost entirely. Bhavishyanti, will become. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki! People who are lowest among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord will give up the original Varnashram Dharma and its rules and regulations, They will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshiping the Lord, abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord. They will accept nonsensical principles, not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly. They will always remain unclean, and they will pluck out their hair. Following a concocted religion, they will flourish. During this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems. Consequently, these people will naturally deride the Vedic authority, the followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmanas, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees. Purport. Presently, the hippies in the Western countries fit this description. They are irresponsible and unregulated. They do not bathe, and they deride the standard Vedic knowledge. They concoct new lifestyles and religions. There are many hippie groups at the present moment, but they all originated from King Arat, who imitated the activities of Lord Rishabdev, who was situated on the Paramahamsa stage. King Arhat did not care for the fact that although Lord Rishabdev acted like a madman, his stool and urine were nonetheless aromatic. So much so that they nicely scented the countryside for miles around. The followers of King Arat went under the name of Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are more or less offshoots of the Mayavad philosophy because they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such people do not respect the real followers of the Vedic principles, the ideal Brahmanas. Nor do they have respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. Due to the influence of this age of Kali, they are apt to concoct false religious systems. Om Jnana Timirandasya Janandana Shalakaya Chakshuram Maritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vanchakalpatrubhyascha Kripasandubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vataram Pangum Lagai Tengirim Tikripatamaham Vande Shri Gunditarnam Shri Parabhadamatavam Shri Chaitanya Ishvaram Namo Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vachiteshatari Ne. We see in the Vedic analysis of the Supreme Lord, there's different conceptions of the absolute truth. In terms of Nirguna, that feature of the Supreme which has no qualities, no characteristics, and Saguna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So God is both impersonal but also personal. The impersonal feature is very easy to understand because through tapasya and yoga and controlling one's senses, of course the desire is inappropriate to become the Supreme or to enjoy the opulences of the Supreme. But in terms of Brahmananda, or the impersonal understanding, there's no relations relationships. So in this way, it's very easy but unnatural and temporary. Asat. The saguna feature, that's a whole different field. And that is where there's relationships. And that is where there is a complete science of service and surrender and relation. So these two fields of nirguna and saguna have to be understood properly, because this verse is speaking about those who are descendants, or shall we say imitators, of Lord Rishabdev. Lord Rishabdev, who was the transcendental avadut, completely self-realized incarnation of the Supreme. But those who like to imitate, they like to follow. Bum bum bole. They like to pluck out the hairs. It's called jada yoga. You can pluck out the hairs, perform tapasya, and here it's described, no bath. You can save so much on soap. I often tell people that, shaven-headed, Prabhupada, he provided a program, clean-shaven, looked like messengers from Vaikuntha. And I always tell people who can't understand, it saves lots of money, and less shampoo required. So in this way, a confusion is there, because if you study, like Prabhupada is describing here, the hippies, of course, when this was written, the hippies have now become yuppies, productive. In other words, when the drugs weren't working, when intoxication wasn't working, well, money's the honey, so let me work in such a way to make some economic development. But it's interesting to see that imitation. Now, if you even study, for example, when Prabhupada was presenting these purports in the 60s, 70s, even in those times, there was actually, even in the Western lands, there was some piety which was there. Now we can see within a period of 30 years, Kali Yuga has progressed in so many different ways that so many more embarrassments are there. So in this way, we can study that when followers, or shall we say, of quasi-spirituality, because in the 60s and the 70s, India became the big fad to go to have a yoga guru and go to the India and Rishikesh, experimentation, free love. And then what happens for those who are a little more educated, they begin to follow these impersonalistic principles of a nirgun, worshipping nirgun Brahma, that actually the goal is to become the Supreme, enjoy like the Supreme. Actually, when I understand true knowledge, I am the one who's moving the wind. I am the one who's creating the sea. It's like the last snare of frustration of material life. I've tried this, I've tried that. Maya Sukhaya Varam Uvido Vimudha. I tried this, I tried that, doesn't work. Well, let me become God. Why not? At least that might work. I remember when I visited San Diego for the first time, and I've said this before in class, it was Janmashtami. I came in at that time, I'm very embarrassed to say, had like jeans, not like a shorts, t-shirt. I'm sorry I didn't get the proper berth that maybe all of you have had. And but Janmashtami, I walked in the door and then my head was 1 foot away from carob cake that had just manifested in the air. And I learned later this term, kitchen religion. I'm going, wow, this is not bad. I'm joking when I say this, but go to the Haris for a feed. No, I was just joking. But prasadam, the power of prasadam, because I had an impersonal approach. Let me be in California, and go to the beach and skate, so many mundane adventures, and then coming in contact with the devotees. And as I say this, each one of you reflect upon your past history. different samskars you each have, different types of yogic discipline you're following, different birth, family, rich, poor, what have you. We're each following up and due to previous samskaras and developing habits in the present situation. So for those who are born, especially in the Western field, prasadam, that is very important. Identification that there is a God. There, that supreme as personality. He tastes this food. Devanrita Swami, this is the days we were in West Virginia. He had an uncle who was a lawyer in Chicago. So he asked, "So, uncle, would you like to come and visit West Virginia this weekend?" And he's a lawyer. Lawyer's so busy, so much work, and there's money coming in. You know, the good. You know. Of course, what's the saying? When do you know when a lawyer might lie? And when he opens his mouth. So, anyways, big money in different parts of the world for. Of course, we don't have any lawyers here. Just joke, but. So, anyways, he said, so busy. So then he said. Devanrita Swami said to him, "Well, we'll give you some of that cheesecake you had last time." "Well, what's that? Cheesecake? You mean that same cake you gave me last time?" Okay, I'll be there tomorrow. It's a like 500-mile drive like that. But you see, according to our consciousness, Krishna will reveal himself in such a way to bring us to the next stage, the next stage, the next stage. So we see an example, Srila Prabhupada, he went Krishna sent him, I'll say that. Krishna sent him at a specific time in the West where everyone was thinking in an alternative way, to reject the materialistic culture and go for something different. So then Srila Prabhupada is chanting the holy names in Tompkins Square Park. And we can see so much has come as a result of that. But even on this path, there can be various confusions, because Srila Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita there can be danger, even on the royal roads. Now, if we study in the pastime of Durvasa Muni in the 9th canto, 5th chapter, text 1, there is a prayer given by Maharaj Ambarish, because you know the history, Durvasa, due to being prideful, because you see, he approached the Supreme in a personalistic sense. He didn't see devotees in relationship to the Supreme. He didn't see devotees as insurance policies in service to the Supreme Lord, but he's thinking of my power. This Ambarish is breaking his fast prematurely. He's dishonoring me. In this way, he cursed the king, and then Durvasa had a bit of a intergalactic tour, followed by natural, all the comforts of warmth, chakra, chasing him. And he would go to Lord Shiva, he'd go to Lord Brahma, no, can't help you. He'd go to Lord Vishnu, no, can't help you, sorry. You take shelter of the devotee. Confirm. Take shelter of the devotee. It's a new thing about this clock. Anyways. You take shelter of the devotee, and then you'll be saved. Again, there can be danger in the royal roads, because you see this verse is describing about how irreligion is prominent by persons who try to imitate the Supreme, imitate his descendants, and then difficulty that develops. And what happens is we begin to perform activities according to our own needs. So in the first canto, second chapter, Savai Pumsam Para Dharmo Yuto Bhaktir Hoksaje, that this principle of the Dharma, these types of engagements have to be understood in a sense which is ahoit tu ki apratiyata. It is unmotivated and unbroken. Because, like, as I said earlier, nirguna is very easy to understand. There's no relationships, but saguna means there's relationships. There's activities which can develop the consciousness or cover the consciousness. Jai Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Shyamasundar ki jai. Shri Shri Gaunitai ki jai. There's a sense of relationships that it's very difficult for those who are attracted, as described here, into various concoctions, various nonsensical religious practices. The principle of religion is renunciation. Now, for example, in Sanatana Goswami, when he finally was able to get away from the jail, and he finally found Mahaprabhu, he had a very nice, opulent blanket, which given to him by his brother. Mahaprabhu would look at that blanket, and then he could understand, oh, this is not right for renunciation. Let me give his blanket away. So he searched for one hippie who's describing no bath, no different types of proper cleanliness, simple sadhu living under a bridge somewhere. Please take my expensive blanket, my chadar, and exchange. And the man was thinking, oh, you're insulting me. Why do you want something which is inferior? You see, materialistic consciousness, this is nice, this is better. Huh? Distinction. And in this way, the man felt insulted, but then he can understand that Sanatana Goswami, he simply wants to please the Lord, so then he made the exchange. So again, saguna feature means relationships. There's activities which we can do which are favorable. There's activities we can do which are not favorable. So this verse is speaking very nicely about the principles of concoction. When we concoct, we engage in devotional service in various ways. For example, in the 3rd canto, chapter 29, Lord Kapila is speaking about devotional service in the modes of nature. He speaks about tamas bhakti, how in terms of devotional service performed in ignorant fashion. We can see we may do that every day. Sleeping, you're in the mode, different cultures is there, different remembrance. But for those who may be unclean, of course, Srila Prabhupada always gave us this formula: do not worry. You simply enter the shower of purification. You can't condemn a dirty person who's in the shower. But if we understand the goal, then we can develop a proper focus. So from tamas bhakti, there's rajas bhakti. Rajas is a little, is a grade up. Because even in activities done in the mode of passion, in connection with the Lord, can purify one. For example, Hanuman was very, very passionate, so powerful, so strong. But he used his passions in the service of Lord Ram. One who is most passionate, Ravana, was asking him, where are you getting your power? And then that's when Hanuman made it very clear, well, from that, the supreme controller who arranges this universe, who controls the seasons, who controls our birth, our death, who the source of my power is the same source as yours. And by the way, you stole that person's wife. That would be, if you had some, like demons are very intelligent, but if you had some sensitivity, someone who's controlling, someone who's creating, someone who's maintaining, and I stole his wife? Ahankara vimutatma kahartamiti manyate. Mind becomes bahusha, completely covered over. So this purport is speaking very clearly about how to avoid irreligion. Now Hanuman, he even boasted to Sita, you get on my shoulders, I can take you from Lanka. Just jump on my shoulders. But then she was most chaste. Sati most chaste, Sita, that she, no, this is not the order of Ram. I will not touch any other man. But even Hanuman was thinking, just come on, I can crush this Lanka like a gloved fruit. See, even Hanuman is very powerful. But even he fell into a little bit of illusion, which he had to pay later when Bharat shot that arrow and knocked him from the sky. So in this way, we can think. You may be very expert as a kirtan singer or manager. You may be an expert guru. But if you start thinking in terms of the ability, see, a devotee doesn't think about the ability within. Dadami buddhi yogam tam. Krishna's giving intelligence. The devotee's happy to be used as an instrument. So Ravana is thinking, where's the power coming from? Devotee never thinks of the power. Simply serves the saguna feature of the powerhouse, that personal feature, and then all the other aspects, the impersonal feature, mystic powers, all these things are developed in a natural sense. So that's a principle, because here in this purport, it's described that a person is trying to imitate Rishabdev, who's on the Paramahamsa stage. Then in the same way, we began to make imitation relationships. We begin to even misuse our position. What was in the 4th canto, 11th chapter, and that's text 9, Kuvera comes before Dhruva. And that's when, right after Dhruva had lost his brother to the one Yaksha had killed him. And then he was a full-on, he lost the plot. He was killing Yakshasas and right, left, and center, using mystic powers. And Kuvera came, okay, you've done, enough's enough. You see, it's an example, he also caught up. He's a great devotee of the Lord, but in this instance, he was covered over by the Supreme and became under the influence of Tamas Bhakti, which Lord Kapila Dev describes. So again, there's a difficulty in dealing with this saguna feature, this personal feature, because it's so easy to make mistakes. But there's a reason for the, shall we say, conveyor belt of purification. The Lord, step by step, brings each one of us to a higher level as we try and work selflessly. On our own strength, how can we develop spiritual culture? But it's on the grace of the Supreme. It's a descending process. So in a sense, when we look at such examples where Kuvera gives an instruction to put Dhruva back on track, we can note that actually, due to identifying with the material field, we may become distracted in various ways. Just like for a materialistic lady may place so much different colors or so much lipstick on and so much powders like this. And this type of orientation is meant to direct attraction to a field which is made up of bile, mucus, and air. I'm very handsome. I'm very beautiful. But then we become distracted. We begin to make philosophies around our personal religion. Our personal religion. I'm a devotee practicing for so many years. I've got a certain flavor, I have a certain design, I have a certain departmental devotional service. Uh-oh, my last class given and no. So then we become attached towards external features. And we forget a principle of what bhav is all about. We use this word usely, bhav. Bhav refers to a spiritual absorption. Now, because we become sidelined in the nirguna feature, we begin to study that bhav, that's it, just to develop a sense of spirituality, just like in Western fields, the New Age retreats are very, very successful in many different ways. This different material miseries, fifth misery, trying to follow on personalistic approach. But in this way, we begin to lose focus of what's called Dradabhav, which means you transcend the bodily concept and you become free from the 6 faults, the 6 mental faults which encourage one in materialistic development. But beyond Bhav, beyond Dradabhav is Sudradabhav, where you give up, and this is like the platform working towards Uttama Adhikari. You give up this platform of seeing distinctions. And you can even compare, like, in one sense, the sampradayas. You transcend sampradaic limitations. The sampradayas, 4 sampradayas, are designed by the Supreme Lord to accommodate different approaches, different persons in different types of samskaras, all bona fide paths towards bringing one back to the spiritual world. But we begin to think in terms of a consciousness which undermines us from our own sampradaya. Because each sampradaya teaches respect. 500 years ago when Mahaprabhu was here, there was different sampradaic personalities. And they would sit with one another. And they would converse with one another. Though the difference, the approach is different, the dress may be different, the respect was there. So what has happened in the recent 500 years is this introduction. This verse is speaking about concocted religion. So we, as followers of various sampradayas, have introduced aham. Mine, my and mine, yours, you and yours. This is my danda. This is my temple. This is my disciple. Of course, in the past we have heard a spiritual authority saying the word my disciple, but the consciousness is always in terms of we, like an example of Srila Prabhupada. He always saw all his dependents sent to him by his Guru Maharaj. So he always saw the principle of we, not I'll, not mine. So this is what happens is we begin to make offenses when we see in terms of aham. Then you focus within our sampradaya, because this verse is speaking about the principle of concocted religion. So you may have the tilak and the dress, and you may have the hair or the beard or what have you, but we begin to think in terms of aham. Are you actually, we're seeing generally the persons here in the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya, are you actually a card-carrying member of the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya in terms of one's focus? Or are we simply wearing the dress of the Sampradaya? Of course, again, my earlier example, you can't condemn a dirty person in the shower, but we have to see what is the goal. What is the goal of the Sampradaya in developing our relationship with the Supreme? Now, if we study how there's various examples of how persons in different Sampradayas can have great respect. And Goswami Vittalji, Nathji, who is considered an incarnation of Lord Krishna. He was traveling from Govardhan, Jadipur to Govardhan. And this is the day during hot season. And he had a small entourage of devotees. And there was one Muslim lady. And she was on the side of the path. And she was parched. She was very, very thirsty. And she was praying, please, some pani, please give me some water. And so Vittalji stopped and he'd give her some water. But Gosai, we have no cup to give her. Then take this cup from Thakurji's cup. What? You see, the disciple is thinking in terms of distinctions, in terms of external. She's a Muslim. This is Thakurji's cup. And he made it very clear. She's thirsty. Gopi Patakamalor Das Anudas. That is the mood. We're engaging in service. We're going beyond these designations. So she was given some drink. In those days, even during droughts, especially during the wars, many times people become so thirsty that they'd fall into the wells. Many people would die. They'd just jump in the well for water. That the true sampradaya means one doesn't make distinctions in terms of derogatory distinctions. Now that's a very high comment, a high level. But bring it down to a level which we can apply within our life. You look around you, around the devotees who are around you. How are you seeing the different devotees? In relationship, in reverence, respect as an insurance policy or someone to control? Because even as Srila Prabhupada himself said, beware of the demons dressed as devotees. He gave the example, first they'll hate us and then they'll laugh at us and then embrace. But through that process, Prabhupada gave the warning, be careful. So in humility, we can see, are we actually, each one of us, are we contributing to solving the problem? Or are you part of the problem? Like I always mention how if we stand before the deity, Gauranitai and Krishna Balaram and Radha Shama Sundar, they're all smiling, aren't they? They're all smiling so nicely. But they have two types of smiles. For those who are serving them in love and devotion, there's a relationship. There's that anand, that spiritual connection. Thakurji is smiling at the surrender of his devotee, and the result of that, devotee is smiling with the Lord. This is bhakti yoga. But there are those devotees who are in the clearing stage, those who are entered the shower, there's some attachment that's there. Something that I have to keep. Because lack of faith, and Prabhupada gave the example, if you're on land and you put your foot on the boat, what can happen? You fall in the water. So Krishna consciousness means to, with the arm, with taking shelter of Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, it's all Shastra, that we get on the boat of spiritual culture. And we distribute that boat according to our capacity. So we have a process what's called Vaidhi. Vaidhi is the rules and regulations. Srila Prabhupada himself said, Krishna consciousness means be mad within, but make sense without. See, Prabhupada's genius. And Prabhupada was able to bring together so many different personalities from around the world because he was expertly presenting the Saguna feature. How to relate, how to serve the Supreme in his personal feature. And then those who have an identification with the external material feature, they will gain great consolation by seeing the relationship. Now, if we study the example of the four Kumaras, they were also absorbed in this Brahmananda relation. They were impersonalists. But because of their purity of heart, when the tulsi, the smell of the tulsi leaf came into their nostrils by the agency of the wind coming from the Lord, there was a change, there was a transformation in consciousness. And in that way, they began to embark upon the true Sanatan Dharma of an interpersonal relationship with the Supreme. We study that this relationship can have so much dynamic aspects. Lord Ramachandra, he built a bridge to Lanka of floating stones, and so much endeavor is there with the monkey soldiers, and first day with the 12 yojanas, then 14, 21 yojanas. In this way, so much endeavor is there. But it's described that actually is the chanting of the holy names dries up the ocean of material existence. So throughout the Shastra, it is acclaimed that the Nam, that interpersonal aspect, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes about if you're chanting a Nam, in a pure level, there will be taste, there will be smell, there will be color. We can see how far we have to go by when we recite the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Where is your mind? Are you becoming part of the problem or solving a problem? Of course, we all have weaknesses, and it's okay to make mistakes, but not the same mistakes over and over again. So the process of Vaidhi Bhakti is a very interesting process. As Srila Prabhupada had the genius to present it, to package it in such a way to attract so many persons. 1972, there were 1 or 2 cars going past Krishna Balaram Mandir. Now you have traffic jams. This is all byproducts of Srila Prabhupada's preaching, is making Krishna consciousness, making Vrindavan Dham known throughout the world. It's a matter of his motivation. In the West, they have this safeguard. You wouldn't see it in India. I hope you wouldn't. But in the West, because people like kukur, they like these dogs. And there's a specific dog named Poodle, a specially designed, well-manicured dog. And it's called like a cone. You know, like, for example, an ice cream cone has a wide point and a very finite point. So there's a cone that goes around the dog's head. Because what does a dog do? It likes to scratch here and there. And if a dog scratches, because they get some irritation, some rash, they can cause some damage to the body. But this cone protects the dog from being able to nibble away. So in this way, the awakening of spiritual consciousness through following the process of Vaidhi Bhakti with the goal of becoming more natural on the path is there to protect us, to give us rules and regulations. As I said, make sense without, be mad within. But sometimes we lose that balance. We become a little, some little bit of madness without, and people visiting our temples begin to wonder, okay. So this is a balance, because this purport is speaking about how to avoid the cheating religions. So as we're on the runway of devotional service, as we're following Mahaprabhu's direction of how to develop in the Shikshastakam this quality of humility, are we imbibing that in our life? Are we seeing the devotees around us as objects of control or objects to serve? Because that's the ultimate insurance policy, to be seva, to serve. And the first object of service is done to the Nam Prabhu. Because one can ask, the demigods, they lining up to take birth in the age of Kali because short lives the lifespan. You don't, in Treta Yuga, Satya Yuga, in terms of performing sacrifice, Treta Yuga, great meditation, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, great sacrifice, Dwapara Yuga, deity worship. But the age of Kali, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. And the Kali Yuga, it is the holy name. So then you can see why, in this example, why is it that many followers of Lord Rishabhdev created more confusion about real spirituality? they began to imitate Lord Rishabdev. Why are these things happen? Why is Maharaj Parikshit, the king, why did he allow Kali to stay? This is the nature of devotee, para upakar. That if someone takes shelter of the devotee, then, okay, there's some blessing. So why is it Maharaj Parikshit, he gave permission for Kali to mesmerize, to control, to embarrass so many jivas